So lecture 3.4, drivers of short-term interest rates. Now, short-term interest rates are the interest rates on bank bills, treasury notes, commercial paper. They're all discount securities, but we're trying to now understand what drives all of these short-term interest rates, what causes them to go up and down over time. And with these short-term interest rates, it's actually pretty easy. The answer is the cash rate. The cash rate set by the answer is, the question is what causes these short-term interest rates to go up and down? The answer is the cash rate. The cash rate is the interest rate that the Reserve Bank of Australia changes to affect the position of the aggregate demand curve and ultimately control the inflation rate in Australia. And what you can see here in terms of the red line is the cash rate does move up and down. And right towards the end of this graph, early 2022, it was at 0.1%. But then as a result of the inflation in early 2022, the cash rate has begun increasing, and markets believe it's increasing up towards 3%. But that's not what we're interested in. We're interested in the high degree of correlation between the red cash rate and this 90-day bank bill interest rate. These are both annualized interest rates. So what this clearly shows is, yes, the high degree of correlation, but if two series are moving like that, and they're so highly correlated, chances are one is leading and the other is following. So we have to establish the direction of causality between these two series, these two interest rate series, and we'll do that in a second. Underneath here, we've got the real cash rate. That is just the cash rate minus the inflation rate, So we don't have to worry about that at the moment, but we're focusing on the high degree of correlation here. Now, we're going to learn about the cash rate in upcoming videos in this topic. So I'll explain to you exactly what the cash rate is. But all you need to know for now is the cash rate is a one-day interest rate that the central bank controls. And what I mean by a one-day interest rate is it's the interest rate in a special market for money where the borrowing and lending occurs for a duration of 1 day only. Now that might be a revelation to a lot of you. There is actually a market in Australia and in most other developed economies around the world, but there's a market in Australia where money is borrowed and loaned for 1 day only. The duration of lending is never more than 1 day. Now, rather than me trying to explain what the objective of that market is, how it operates here, I'll leave that to another video in this topic, and we'll go into full detail on that. But just for now, accept that there is a special money market in Australia called the overnight cash market. So money is borrowed and loaned overnight, hence it's a 24-hour loan. And the interest rate in that market, where this borrowing and lending occurs for 24 hours, the interest rate is called the cash rate. And that is the cash rate that the Reserve Bank moves up and down to target the inflation rate. And when that interest rate is moved up and down, it somehow affects retail interest rates, such as mortgage rates, car loan rates, personal loan rates, etc. And we'll get to that later. So what we're looking at is the high degree of correlation here. We know that the Reserve Bank changes the cash rate at will, and it has ultimate control over the cash rate. If the Reserve Bank wants the cash rate to be 5.1%, it'll be 5.1%. It won't be 5.11 and it won't be 5.09. It'll be 5.1%. That's the degree of control that the central bank has over this special interest rate called the cash rate in this market for money for 24 hours. So if the Reserve Bank is there in financial markets controlling the cash rate like that, and because it is the central bank and it does have so much power in financial markets, then it must be the 90-day bank bill interest rate, which is following the lead of the cash rate. So the cash rate changes, and then the 90-day bank bill yield follows. Now, at this stage, it's just important to acknowledge the presence of that relationship, the presence of the correlation between the cash rate and the 90-day interest rate. Just acknowledge the presence of it. Okay, I'll explain later why that correlation is important and how that then flows on and affects other interest rates in the economy. But just for now, it's the correlation that we're interested in. The only other thing we have to do in this video is try to come to some understanding of why it is when the cash rate goes up, 90-day interest rates on bank bills go up, and when the cash rate falls, 90-day interest rates on bank bills fall as well. So why does the correlation exist? Okay, with the red line, that cash rate, I'm just going to start referring to that as the one-day interest rate. And the 90-day bill yield, I'll just refer to that as the 90-day interest rate. So we've got a one-day interest rate for one-day borrowing and lending, and a 90-day interest rate for 90-day borrowing and lending. Remember, these are still the big players in the economy. Okay, now let's imagine that I'm a large financial institution. Let's just imagine that, no, we'll imagine that you're a large financial institution, not me. So you're a large Australian bank, and you have $1 billion that you wish to lend for a period of 90 days. Just imagine that. So $1 billion has come in from a customer. You anticipate that $1 billion, the customer will take it out 90 days from now. So you've got that $1 billion temporarily for 90 days. Now, just for ease of explanation, I am painting quite a particular situation here, but it's just for ease of explanation. So you've got $1 billion, you're a big bank, you've got $1 billion, and you want to lend it to someone for 90 days because then the customer that deposited the $1 billion, they'll want it back, that they may move that money offshore, they may move it into the stock market, they may move it into a number of different markets, but you've got it for 90 days. Now, as a bank, you've got a number of options, but let's just consider two of the more likely options. The first option is you could take that $1 billion that the customer has deposited, go into the 90-day market for money. It could be the bank bill market, it could be the treasury note market, it could be the commercial paper market. But you go into a 90-day market and you lend that money for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, you get the $1 billion back, you then hand that back to the customer. Now, that return that you'll get on that 90-day investment will actually help you pay your customer, the one who deposited the $1 billion, a return, because presumably you have to pay that customer some interest. So the interest you earn by lending the money into the 90-day market can help cover the interest that you have to pay the customer. Hopefully one's higher than the other, and as a bank, you make a profit out of that. But that's option number one. A 90-day loan in a 90-day bank bill market, or a 90-day commercial paper market, or a 90-day treasury note market. The other option is, and I've got it here, 30 days. You could go into the 30-day or a 30-day market and lend it for 3 30-day periods in a row. So 3 separate transactions, loan it for 30 days, then get your money back, lend it for another 30 days, get your money back, lend it to another 30 days. It's probably going to be 3 different borrowers. So that's your second option. 3 consecutive 30-day loans stretched out over a 90-day period. Or you could put your money in the cash market, the one-day market, and loan it out to a different person every day for the next 90 days. See what's happening here? You've got a range of options. And now we need to start thinking about the interest rates in these different markets. What I've described is a situation where the 90-day market and the 30-day market are substitutable for a lender. So in that situation, you'd probably be very indifferent between putting your money into the 90-day market for one loan or putting it into the 30-day market for 3 separate loans. You'd be indifferent if the effective interest rates were the same. And you would be indifferent between putting your money into the cash market for 91-day transactions if the effective interest rate was the same. So hopefully you can see where I'm heading with this. Hopefully you're piecing 1 and 1 together and getting 2, not 2.5. What I'm getting at here is that from the perspective of a lender and actually a borrower as well, these markets are highly substitutable. If I wanted to borrow money for 180 days, I could borrow it once in the 180-day market, 2 separate loans in the 90-day market, 6 separate loans in the 30-day market, etc., etc. So whether you are a lender of money or a borrower of money, these short-term markets are highly substitutable. And because I have the option of moving my money into one market or the other, or borrowing money from one market or another, you wouldn't expect the interest rates to get too far out of line. So hopefully that makes sense. So what happens is financial market participants realize that they can deposit their money into either the 90-day market once, or the cash market 90 times, or the 30-day market 3 times, etc., etc. And so that's why these interest rates are so highly correlated. Because if for some reason interest rates, and I know the correlation isn't perfect, and I know these short-term interest rates do for a lot of this period lie above the cash rate, but just ignore that for now. We're just looking at the high degree of correlation and saying those interest rates are roughly the same. So because they're roughly the same, it just highlights the substitutability of these markets. Now, if there was a situation where the interest rate in the 90-day market sort of jumped up there to 4%, no one would borrow money in the 90-day market, and everyone would be looking to push money, borrow money in the cash market, the one-day market. And if the interest rate in the 90-day market moved up here, everyone would be looking to lend into the 90-day market. And just think about that alone. If somehow, it would never happen, but if somehow the interest rate at this point, around about 2015, right there, my cursor, if that somehow magically jumped up to 4%, what would happen? You would have lenders from across Australia, across the world, pouring money into the 90-day bank bill market. because the yield is so much better than alternative markets. And with money pouring into this market, the interest rate would just quickly come back down because of additional supply of loanable funds. Okay, and so that's why these interest rates are so highly correlated, because the markets are substitutable, and the interest rate in these markets is the price of borrowing money. And so the prices are highly correlated because the markets are substitutable. And so when the cash rate changes like this, the 90-day interest rate, in this case, changes almost 1 for 1. So hopefully that makes sense. Next video, we'll look at the overnight cash market, and I'll explain to you exactly how this cash rate is determined and exactly what the cash rate is. We know the cash rate is some sort of interest rate that the Reserve Bank controls, but any interest rate isn't. What an interest rate is the price you pay to borrow money and the reward you get for lending money. So in terms of the cash rate, who are the borrowers and who are the lenders in this one-day market? I'll explain that to you next.